I take great pride in introducing Professor Himanshu Rai. He is the director of IIM Indore. Under his leadership, IIM Indore got the Triple Crown accreditation of AMBA, AACSB, and IQUIS, making it one of the 100 odd institutions in the world to have the honor. His core teaching areas include negotiation, leadership, and justice. As the convener of CAT 2010, he successfully led the largest format change in the world's testing history, exceeding all global standards of testing. His profile includes a stint of over 8 years at Tata Steel India, where he played a pivotal role in developing quality system and the communication policy for the company. He sincerely believes in the power of academics to lead the change that people aspire to bring about in our society. Dr. Himanshu Rai is chairperson of the Board of Directors Indore Management Association, chairperson of Advisory Board of Durban University of Technology Business School, South Africa, and member International Advisory Board of ESC Clermont Graduate School of Management, France. He is on the Advisory Committee of National Commission for Women, member of High Powered Advisory Committee on Indian Knowledge System of Ministry of Education. He provides a strategic consultancy to the Government of India in a particular as audited programs are sponsored by different ministries and the Planning Commission of India. He also provides a strategic consultancy to the state government in the areas of restructuring strategies, HR management, and employee development. An expert in the interpersonal negotiation, he provides consultancy in negotiation to individuals and organizations.
Please go ahead, sir.
Very good evening.
Yes, you're audible, visible both. Please go ahead.
Wonderful. So thank you very much, Vikrant. And I'll restart with what I was talking about. When we talk about ancient wisdom and sustainable economic development, the first thing that we need to consider is what has the cost of economic development been, the way we have tried to bring it about in the last 2 or 3 decades. I see 4 major problems that the current economic development and the way we have gone about it has actually caused. The biggest challenge that I see is that of inequity. With 1% of people in the world holding 40% of the wealth, that's certainly not the way to go about it. If I look at the gender inequity, the difference between a privileged male and an underprivileged female in the world is 100 years. That's certainly not the way we want to go about the economic development. The second challenge that I see is in terms of urban infrastructure. And mind you, I'm not talking just about the global south, but I'm even talking about the global north. The urban infrastructure is crumbling everywhere, whether it is traffic, whether it is water, whether it is sanitation, whether it is hygiene. We see horror stories all over the world because that urban infrastructure, because of rapid urbanization, just cannot take that kind of pressure. All the metros across the world are facing this particular challenge. The third area is that of rural challenges. Now, many a times we completely forget that large part of the world, particularly in some parts of the world, people live in the rural areas and they have completely different set of challenges. For example, if I have to talk about my country, India, 900 million people live in rural areas. I want everyone, all of the people who are watching me, to wrap their head around that number, 900 million. That's more than the population of the United States and the Europe combined. And those people in the rural areas face completely different kinds of challenges. And the fourth problem that I see is the most obvious one, which is the problem related to environmental issues. Vikrant was talking about global warming. Global warming is a challenge, and we don't have much time left in terms of the kind of temperature rise that we see over here. One of the things is that we can't do much about it, because even if I had a magic wand and I stopped emitting greenhouse gases even today as a world, global warming is still going to happen because it takes almost 80 to 100 years for the greenhouse gases to dissipate. If you look at the rainfall pattern, for example, right now I'm in Dubai and I'm joining you people from Dubai. Dubai actually had floods and there was no drainage system. There was no sewerage system to deal with it because there was no rain ever. But Dubai had to deal with floods. If you look at the rainfall pattern across the world, the rainfall pattern has changed. And clearly, therefore, we need to think about what is the sustainable way of going about economic development. And for that, we refer to the ancient scriptures. I'm going to talk about the ancient wisdom from the Indian scriptures. One of the things that the world talks about today when we talk about environment is that we should recycle, we should reuse. But one of the things that people have started talking about is that we should reduce. And if I draw wisdom from the Indian scriptures, I will add a fourth R to it, and that is to refuse. So our first thing should be to refuse. Do I need another suit? Refuse. Perhaps not. Do I need to bring another car into the family? Refuse. Maybe you don't need it. Do I need to have one more thing? Refuse. And if you think you really need it, in that case, try to reduce. Try to reduce your consumption. And then try to reuse, try to recycle. Because by not refusing or reducing, we are actually putting a massive burden, not just on the society, but on the planet itself. The Yajurved says, Yad Jagrito Dur Mudaiti Daivam Tadu Suptasya Tathaivaiti. Duram Gamam Jyotisham Jyotirekam Tanme Manah Shiv Sankalpamastu. Translated in English, what it means is that the human mind has a tendency to travel very far in the state of wakefulness as it does while it is asleep. And this human mind is full of desires. And therefore, we need to control these desires. So if we can control the desires and separate them from our needs, we will realize that this universe has enough for every person's need. Like what Mahatma Gandhi said once, he said this universe has got enough to satisfy every man's need, but this universe will fall short to satisfy even one man's greed. And therefore, what we need to understand is that the real economic development is not simply about materialistic consumption, but it is about consumption with responsibility. It's about saying no if you don't need more. It's about reducing if you don't need that much. It's about reusing if it can be reused, and certainly about recycling if it cannot be reused. So that is the first lesson that we draw from the ancient wisdom. The second lesson that I would like to draw is that of responsible leadership. What does responsible leadership mean, and why is it important? One of the most significant Indian scriptures that has impacted the way the world thinks, that has given us the philosophy of differentiating between the right and wrong, and I think most people around the world have heard of it, is the Bhagavad Gita. Now, many a times I've asked, what does Bhagavad Gita contain? What is the message in Bhagavad Gita? And today we are living in a world where everybody wants the message in the shortest number of words possible. And I tell them, the message of Bhagavad Gita lies between its first word and its last word. The first shlok of Bhagavad Gita says, Dharm kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavaschai kim kuruvat sanjay. I'm not going to tell you the entire translation, but suffice to say that the first word that Bhagavad Gita has is a word called dharma. And dharma, very loosely translated in English, means duty, your responsibility. And if you look at the last shloka of Bhagavad Gita, it says, Yatra Yogeshwaraha Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha, Tatra Shrir Vijayor Bhutir, Nitir Dhruva Mama, Dhruva Nitir Mama. So the last word of Bhagavad Gita is Mama. Mama means mine. And therefore, the entire gist of Bhagavad Gita is, what is my dharma? What is my duty? What is my responsibility? And therefore, everything that's written in the Bhagavad Gita talks about two elements that you need to develop inside you to become a responsible leader. It says you need to have the ability to see things. What does ability to see things mean? Ability to anticipate the consequences of your action in the short, medium, and long term. Ability to understand what lies outside of that door, what lies behind that wall, which means whatever we do today, we should try and see what is the impact going to be. If we are making certain kind of economic development in certain kind of regions, let's say we are trying to build a road in the hills, let's see what is the impact on the environment going to be. If we are increasing the industrial output, let's see what is the impact going to be on the water and the air in that particular area. The ability to understand, the ability to anticipate. The second element that the Bhagavad Gita talks about is integrity. Now, most of the philosophies, they talk about integrity as walking the talk. But the Bhagavad Gita and the Yajurveda together say it's not just about walking the talk, but it's about manasa, vacha, karmana. And what it means is that your thoughts, your words, and your actions, all three have to be in consonance, which means say what you mean and then do what you say. That's the first element. And the second element is whatever you think, say, or do has to be for the universal good and not for the individual good. So, this simple phenomenon of collectivism, of talking about the universal good, the united consciousness talks about universal good. We talk about sarve bhavantu sukhina, that everyone in this universe should be happy. We don't talk about a particular community, we don't talk about a particular country, we don't talk about a particular landmass, etc., etc. We say sarve bhavantu sukhina. We say sarva asha mam mitram bhavantu. That's what the ancient wisdom talks about, that all the directions should be friendly to us. It says, yo asman dushtayam vayam dushmashtam bojam bhedadvaha. That this feeling of jealousy, if I have that feeling of jealousy towards somebody else, and if somebody else has the feeling of jealousy towards me, we should try and burn that feeling of jealousy. And therefore, our ancient wisdom talks about responsible leadership using these two dimensions. The third element that our ancient wisdom talks about in terms of sustainable economic development is to understand who you are. And what do I mean by that? Many a times we look at the human body and then we try to consume things according to the requirements of the human body. But it is not the body, because the ancient wisdom says your body is not the real you. Your soul is the real you. And therefore, you should try not just to take care of your body, but also to take care of your soul. It says the soul is very, very different. Nenam chindanti shastrani, nenam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledyanti apo, na shoshyati marutaha. Nenam chindanti shastrani, the weapons can't put holes into it. Nenam dahati pavaka, fire cannot destroy it. Na chainam kledyanti apo, water cannot make it wet. Na shoshyati marutaha, which means that the air or the wind cannot make it dry. And therefore, once we start understanding the reality of who we truly are, the reality of our soul, we understand that what is more important is how do we make our soul content? And please remember, the contentment of the soul does not come merely with materialistic development. I'm not poo-pooing, or I'm not being condescending towards material development. Of course, I need food to eat, I need clothes to wear, we need water to drink, we need certain things that we. However, how much do we really?
Raisab, I'm afraid that your signal again are lost. Probably you are able to listen me, but your image, now we can see you and your image is moving, but your voice is not coming. This is the last thing we really wanted to happen right now, because you are so flawless in speaking what you are saying. And I think that your signal again got lost. Nevertheless, now he has joined again. Raisab, I'm afraid your signals are still not clear, because your voice is breaking and your picture is coming in pixel. Probably you are able to listen to me, and I know that you had some pressing engagement, but you still took out time for us. If you happen to settle your signals, then we'll be very happy to have you again. But seems there is some concern at your end. Would like to extend my sincere thanks, Rai Saab. We really wanted to listen your talk completely. As you mentioned about refuse, then reduce, then recycle, then reuse and recycle, that was very profound. It reminded us of Ten Tekten Bhunjita. You quoted Yajurveda, you quoted Bhagavad Gita. Second, you mentioned about responsible leadership, and Mama Dharma is the essence. You mentioned that follow your own duty and do it with Mansa Vacha Karmana. And you told that it should be, you invoke the feeling of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. And the third point you mentioned about understand who we are, and so that the contentment of soul is most important and doesn't come with only material things. So now I think we got your signals. If you would like to complete, now I can see you.
Can you hear me?
What to do? Now,
Hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
So I'll just conclude, because I was going to conclude anyway. So what I meant was that when I talk about why do you need to understand your relationship with the universe? Because the moment you understand your relationship with the universe, you also understand your responsibility. For example, if I know this is my father, I automatically know what my responsibility towards my father is. And that's what the ancient Indian wisdom talks about. Understand your relationship with water. Understand your relationship with trees. Understand your relationship with animals. And once you know, once you have understood it, make sure that you do something about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave you with one story. A little girl was walking with her father on a beach. The father was talking on the cell phone, and he walked a few steps and paces ahead of the little girl. He turned back after he finished his conversation, and he saw that there were thousands and thousands of starfishes which were being washed ashore, and his little daughter was picking up the fish and throwing them back into the sea. The father smiled an indulgent smile, and he said, "What are you doing, darling?" The little girl said, "Father, I'm trying to save these fish." The father said, "Little girl, can't you see that there are thousands and thousands of fishes? Baby, you can't make a difference to this." The little girl bent, picked up a fish, threw it back into the water, and said, "Dad, I made a difference to that one." Ladies and gentlemen, be that girl. And for that, you can always draw upon wisdom that lies in the roots that we come from. Thank you very much. And it was such a pleasure being with you all.
Thank you, Rai Saab. And now I think people watching us from different parts of the world knows why I insist so much to you that you should be there in the programs. Thank you for giving us an enigmatic start and an energetic beginning. So kind
Thank you so much. My pleasure, Vikrant. All the best.
Good wishes. Thank you very much.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Dr. Himanshu Rai for coming on to the platform of United Consciousness and sharing his views.